So, um, again, well done for your win at
Thank you.
EFN. And you won the Audience Award. So, how did you, what would you say connected the most with the audience in Bleep?
I mean, hopefully it's funny, and I think that I think that when comedy's done well, it can really go down with an audience, and I think that laughter is um, uh, uh, contagious, and I think that if you get a few laughs early on in a film, it kind of lets people relax a bit and enjoy it, I suppose. So hopefully that's like I say, it was in amongst some really great films, but it was the lightest one out of the
Mhm.
lot. That probably worked within our favor for sure.
Well, that's a really interesting point. It's had a really good festival run. Do you feel that the reaction you got during Emerging Filmmakers Night was roughly the same as you got overall in other festivals?
Well, so we've had a lot of acceptances, but it was only the second screening.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah, so we've got like a bunch coming up. I think we've got 10 now in total, but there's eight that just haven't happened yet. Um, so it was different, like because it screened at Fright Fest, and
That's the
that
one I was
audience,
thinking of.
yeah, that audience are wild, man. They just come, and it's kind of like the closest I've been to watching films when I've been in America. They kind of for them it's theatre, like it's an interactive experience. People are just kind of people, yeah, people turn up knowing what to expect. I think at Fright Fest, and so that was a it was a different experience. People were hollering and clapping and mid film, and it was kind of really surreal. Um, but it wasn't any better or worse. I don't think. I think every festival experience will have a different reaction, and it was just funnily enough, I remember thinking at the time I was watching it and thought, God, this hasn't gone down as well as last time. And then at the end, announcing that the audience had voted the best film was like, oh, what do I know? I'm an idiot. I don't know anything. Basically, is my conclusion from that. So
Speaking of knowing what to expect, I'm not going to give anything away because the film is quite a surprising one. And I'm a big horror fan and I'm a big comedy fan. And I really enjoyed many aspects of that film on many levels. But did you feel that the Fright Fest audience, for example, went in expecting a horror film and were surprised at the many twists and turns?
there is some real heavy horror as well in there. There's some real gruesome, kind of like not funny, really serious stuff going on there. So I think that having a comedy just breaks that, and you need that. I think in a program, when you kind of it's intense, 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 then just something just to give it a bit of levity, I suppose, and just let people breathe and let people, you know, come back down to zero before they kind of tackle the next big thing. So um, yeah, but I mean, yeah, it is predominantly horror, but there were other comedies in amongst it as well, and the comedies again seem to just really go down well.
And during the EFN night, did you get any audience feedback? Did you get a chance to speak to people?
I spoke to people afterwards. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
What sort of
yeah.
comments did you get? Did you get anything that made you think differently about your film or stayed with you?
I tend to not be very good at being complimented. So when people come and say nice things, I immediately turn the conversation around to them and find out what they're up to and what their interests are. So it's in the most British possible way. I can't stand it. I don't quite know how to react. So um, yeah, people come and say they enjoyed it and it was surprising and funny, and then I find out, what their nan's name is or something, and just completely turn it around on them. So, um,
Well, going back a bit to the start of your career as a filmmaker, how did you become a filmmaker? What were your first steps? What got you into film?
so it's going back a long way actually. At university, I studied film, but it wasn't a practical filmmaking course. In sort of classic fashion, I suppose, for me. I didn't know it wasn't a practical filmmaking course until I started the course.
Or was it
Um,
film theory or
Film
something like
theory,
that?
film history,
Okay.
yeah, really interesting. And there was like 5% of it was practical filmmaking, but it was more like this is how a camera works, and this is how you do 3-point lighting, and it was all kind of really basic stuff. But afterwards, I kind of didn't pursue it. I fell into a job in marketing, um, and after studying film and analyzing it and breaking it down, I just stopped enjoying watching films for years. I just couldn't watch a film without part of my brain just sort of deconstructing it, and I just didn't enjoy it anymore. And it wasn't until probably 2000, and so this was back at university. Was I graduated in 2003, and it wasn't until 2007 that I was in Cineworld with a friend, and on the back of the kind of program, I'm not sure if they even do printed programs anymore, but on the back of the program then there was an advert for a 24-hour film competition. So one of these things where you get given a name of a film, a line of dialogue, and a prop.
Yeah, and you have
You
to
have
come up with
24
yeah.
hours just to do it, and I did that, and so got the brief on a Friday, filmed it on the Saturday, screened it in the Cineworld on Sunday, and I was like, okay, this is fun, this is good again. So that I kind of got
Wow.
back into it and really slowly, um, uh, I guess, got my way into working out that comedy's where I sit best and what I'm best at and what I enjoy the most. And but that's been quite a long journey, like God, a 15-year journey to get to the point where I've sort of gone, well, this is what I enjoy most, and this is what I'm going to focus on.
So what
Predominantly.
point of your career are you at now? What have you done today?
Mm. So the next step is a feature film, and we've
Mhm.
got Adam, and a producer who didn't produce Bleep. He produced
Yeah.
Talk Radio and Quiet Carriage, previous shorts that have sort of done well on the circuit, comedy stuff. And we've been developing kind of the whole slate of films, really. But we've got one called Llewellyn Bundy, and it's kind of a horror comedy, and it's low budget, and it's something that we've been trying to get off the ground for a few years. And we're kind of in a place now where we're packaging it and we're taking it to market in October, and hopefully raising the finance to get that done. So um, the next step is kind of transitioning from shorts to features, really.
Mhm. Well, touching on that, for you, were the short films an end to themselves, or did you use them more as calling cards to make a feature film, or a bit of both?
Mm, I
Did you
think
enjoy
that
working with that format?
I do enjoy it, but I think that my relationship with shorts has changed over the years, because when I first started, it was for fun, and then I started doing it for the wrong reason, and I started making films that I thought would win awards, and I went down a route, and it took me a very long time to realize I was doing it because it was a subconscious thing, but trying to make films I thought were going to win BIFTAs or BAFTAs and get into certain festivals and have certain accolades, and and in the end, I stopped doing that because I wasn't enjoying making those. They were perfectly good films, and they were all part of who I've become now as a filmmaker. But it really wasn't until Quiet Carriage, when I went to comedy and really started enjoying it, that I started getting into the festivals I was so desperate to get into for 10 years, making the wrong kind of film, if that makes sense.
Do you have a team you work with regularly? So you worked with actors Paul and Rebecca
Mhm.
on Bleep, and they knew each other from before. They've been working together, so you can see there's a real chemistry there.
Mm.
Well, first of all, let's start with how you met them and how you started working with them. How did that come
How
about?
did I meet them? Well, they're a couple. They have a child. They're like a family.
In
They're
real life?
yeah, right. So if they didn't have chemistry, there'd probably be problems. Uh, yeah, they're great together. They're just amazing together. Um, I think I think Mark Brennan, who I co-wrote
Hmm.
the film with, I think he knew Paul at least. He might have known Becky as well, and he knew Toby, and we just I said to Mark, I would really like these people, and he was like, well, I know these people, and we just he just called them, and I think got it all set up. Um, so that was quite. It was all pretty straightforward.
Hmm.
You know that all three of the sort of key cast in it are people that I've watched for years and are just brilliant in comedy. And the thing about comedy acts I found is they all know each other as well because they do stand up together and
Yeah,
they
they're
start
on the
live
circuit
together
together.
and they just around each other all the
Hmm.
time and the vast majority of people in comedy know each other. So it was really easy to cast. I mean, it happened in a day. We just sort of went, are we going to make this film? Yes, we are. Okay, well, let's just jump on Zooms. And within a day, the three cast members had confirmed and said, yeah, let's just do it.
Like practically, how did you get it off the ground? So COVID happened,
Mm-hmm.
presumably a lot of the work stopped.
Mm-hmm.
How did you get a film project off the ground? Did you have to raise funds? Logistically, how did it happen?
No, me and Mark just said to each other, either we wait and we apply through the usual kind of public bodies and
Mm.
wait 6 months and don't get anywhere anyway, or we could just both chuck in a few £100 each and just say, this is what we've got, this is what we can make it with. So, the film itself, at least the production then was like under £1,000. And we did.
Was that the kind of advice you'd give to young filmmakers starting out? Is just throw yourselves at it, get something off the ground instead of procrastinating forever trying to
Yeah.
get in touch with the various funding bodies and so on.
I think so. I mean, I think you should always throw things into the funding bodies because why not? It's
Mhm.
free to enter, and they've got to pick someone, right? So, but don't rely on one thing. Just make stuff
Mhm.
because you know it's. I started making stuff in 2000. What did I say? 2006, 2007, and it's only really, if I'm being brutally honest, it's only been the last sort of 3 or 4 years that I've been making good stuff. So don't expect to make there might the people more talented than me that are just creative geniuses that will make one film and win a BAFTA. But for me, it's the whole thing is just about you know chucking stuff at a wall and
But
being
you gain
careful.
experience as well in terms, and you
Yeah,
start to
experience.
know
Yeah,
how
yeah.
to work.
How to work with people, how to get the best out of actors, how to work with crew, which is something people never really teach you. You got to kind of feel it out yourself, and yeah, I'm a slow learner. There'll be people that pick it up a lot quicker than me. I can promise you that.
So, what's been a highlight of the beginning of this festival run for you, or an anecdote you'd like to share with us?
Um, I don't really know. It's literally just been a few weeks. It really has,
It's
and
very recent, then.
it's all very recent, and I'm just enjoying the excitement of it screening in front of an audience at the moment. That's the kind of the buzz
Mhm.
of actually putting all the work in, being stressed, trying to get it through in certain time scales and time frames, and then suddenly it's out there and people are watching it, and that's just kind of a buzz, really. Um,
Yeah.
Fright Fest was cool, man. It like playing at the Prince Charles, 200 seater capacity, Rams, wall to wall, sellout crowd, and just kind of yeah, the audience reaction was pretty insane. So that was probably that I will forever cherish that memory for sure.
Are you attending any of them?
So it is difficult
Mhm.
because of petrol prices and um I didn't go to Wigan and Lee. It's just too, I don't have £100 spare for petrol. You know what I mean? Like it's hard at the moment for everyone.
Oh, cost of living
Um,
crisis.
yeah, I'd love to attend them all, but it's it's just not possible financially, I think. So I'm having to be quite selective on where I go and just plan ahead and making sure I'm being sensible with finances. But it is tough to follow a film on the circuit. I certainly won't be going abroad, I can tell you that much. But if
Yeah, I bet.
I can make it to Bolton, I will. But that's about as exotic as I'll get.
Well, that's usually, yeah, the big impediment for filmmakers is actually traveling with their films. Have you found it to have changed recently, what with COVID and a lot of stuff being online? Have you been able to take part in any, or will be able to take part in any sort of Zoom Q&As or things like that?
I think the majority are physical now. I mean, there are still some that appear to be hybrid and
Yeah.
do a bit of both, which I think if anything positive comes out of COVID, which there isn't a lot, obviously, but the idea of hybrid festivals and people being able to, it broadens the audience and it gives more accessibility to people that can't travel and can't afford to do it or just would prefer to do it in the comfort of their own home. I think that's a
Mhm.
positive thing.
Are
Yeah,
there
but
any
it's really different.
all-time classics that for
What, like
you,
features or
yeah,
shorts?
anything that for you would say they kind of got you into cinema or they
As
made you fall in love with it?
I don't know about got me into cinema, but I could watch Napoleon Dynamite on a loop for
Okay.
eternity. Or an eagle versus shark as well. I like films that have kind of weirdo, oddball characters. I think that it's a lot of fun just to kind of see people struggle through life and but yeah, Napoleon Dynamite, eagle versus shark, that kind of vibe is definitely my cup of tea for sure.
That's wonderful. Well, thank you very much for your time, Ben.
Thank you very much for having
That
me. I
was
appreciate
very
it.
informative, and we wish you the best of luck the rest of your festival run.
Cool. Thank you very much.